Last time when we met in New Delhi during the G20, B20 event, we had you at the Business Today India at 100 Summit, and one of the things that you said then went viral across. There was a lot of conversation about it where you spoke of G3, China, the United States and India pushing global growth, you said, in the last decade. Some people later reacted strongly saying this is Borge just getting carried away. Okay, so the India story is shaping up well, but not quite as well as you suggested. How are you sitting at your perch at Davos looking at what's playing out in India at the moment?
So I'm still very optimistic on behalf of the Indian economy. We do expect the Indian economy to grow 8% this year. We think in the coming decade we can be speaking about a $10 trillion economy, at least in the coming 2 decades. So I also spoke about the snowball effect, and it's easier to understand when here you start to roll a small snowball on the top of one of these hills, and it starts to move down. It increases the speed and it gets bigger and bigger. This is still what I do expect also moving forward in India. It's an economic success story, and I still believe in G3 and the fact that India in the future will be a player, maybe different, but on the same level as the US, China, and India. Maybe we should also add the European Union into this mix because it is 20% of the global economy and we are in Europe. So we should not write off Europe. So either we're speaking about the G3 or a G4.
Where does India figure in the conversations at Davos this year? I see on the promenade, the presence keeps getting bigger, if that's even possible. It almost seems like an Indian takeover in some parts of the World Economic Forum Davos promenade.
So I think it's sort of reflecting the reality. We have a lot of Indian companies here. India is growing very fast. There's a lot of interest in India. There is like a country strategy meeting on India, where the 3 ministers that are here will conduct, and the governor of the central bank is here too. And I was told by my team that it was oversubscribed after half an hour. So there's like a long waiting list. I think we can only fit 100 CEOs into the room, and now they're waiting, they're upset, they can't get in. So I said maybe we'll have to look for a bigger room. I think this is reflecting also the interest in India. And of course, we would have loved to have Prime Minister Modi. It's an election year, so we are shooting for 2025 to have the Indian Prime Minister.
It seems you're already counting on a Modi re-election.
You said I was saying the Indian Prime Minister in Davos in 2025. So it's slippery here, you know, the ice. But Norwegians are used to handling slippery ice. But we also are very pleased that we do have 3 cabinet ministers here in an election year. That's good, and the interest in India is just incredible.
Let's spend a moment talking about your global risk report. And there, the misuse of artificial intelligence potentially in elections is cited as a very high risk just at this moment. How do you see that being dealt with in the conversations at WEF, given that a lot of these tools are available now and you don't quite know how to prevent the misuse of these AI tools?
So there's a lot of positive elements with AI, and I don't think we should underestimate how big it is. It is at least like the internet. Maybe it's as consequential as electricity. It will increase productivity maybe with 30% in this decade. That is a lot of prosperity. It will create new jobs. It will kill some old jobs. It's going to change our world. But you're right. Without traffic rules, you can see that you can build quantum computers. There's supercomputers that can break through all the security measures today. The billion walls made there. And you can use AI in then creating those new algorithms that can then be attacking the billion walls. You can have deep fakes. You can also see that it's used for autonomous weapons, killer robots, and all this. And for that, we need traffic rules. Just imagine New Delhi without traffic rules. You know, it's already chaotic, but you do need some rules. And there I do hope, even in a fractured world, that the big nations can agree on some basic traffic rules so it works in the interest of humankind.
Do you see that happen? Or do you think that given everybody's at different levels of adoption of these AI technologies, coming together, given how fast technology is adopting, is really very difficult to actually achieve?
I think that it is hard to be at the forefront with the regulations, but I think there needs to be a consensus among the big economies that we really need to make sure that this knowledge is not used to build killer robots or autonomous weapons or drones that operate without any human kind of interference. Who wants that? That's exactly what we wanted to avoid after the Second World War, when we agreed on non-proliferation when it comes to nuclear weapons. We know that that should not end up in the wrong hands. We have, until quite lately, been quite successful in that. And this is also the negative side of AI. But I think sometimes we focus too much on that. I think we can handle it. We also have to look at all the big opportunities. And for example, for India, one of the reasons why India is growing so fast now is that India is fast mover in the digital economy. And the digital economy is growing twice as fast as the rest of the economy. The same with services. So for India, that has now been at the forefront here, digital economy, but also services export. This is like a very sweet spot for India that it has to use. But of course, the reforms also have to continue in India. The reforms related to education, the reforms related to also funding the different states, but also continuing to address unnecessary red tape and all this. But I feel there is an understanding of this also in New Delhi.
Lastly, let's speak about your global economic growth outlook. What is the WEF's understanding of economic growth globally and also from an Indian prism?
So we do expect 2.9% economic growth this year. Last year we had around 3%, so it's a little bit less. What we do think, though, is that the global trade growth will revive. It was only 0.8% last year. This year we expect trade to grow around 3% too. It's not, again, the kind of engine behind growth, but it is better. For 2025, we're a bit more optimistic. I think we then can go above 3% again. And we should also acknowledge that a lot of economists expected a recession in the US. It's the largest economy in the world, 25% of the GDP. There's no recession. It's probably a soft landing. We're seeing inflation abating a bit. Interest rates will then go down. And for India, I think if trade grows again and India gets a little bit more help also from the global economy in 2025, I think, as I said, that India will be in medium term to long term a $10 trillion economy, provided that the reforms do continue.
What's your outlook for when that might happen, $10 trillion?
So, as I said, medium term to long term. But I think if India really gets it right, that can happen also in the foreseeable future. I think the economy is around $3 trillion today. To triple that, it may take a decade.
Okay, lastly, you spoke of the US. There's a big election in the United States.
Oh, is it?
The prospect of Donald Trump being re-elected hangs over all the conversations here at the World Economic Forum, and everybody very concerned about what a second potential Trump presidency could look like.
You know, there are many elections this coming year. There's an election in India.
Yes.
You know, there's an election in Russia too.
Yeah, some kind of election, yes.
And there is an election coming up in the U.S. So we are following all these elections with great interest, to put it that way. You know, we are a neutral, impartial organization, but all these elections will have big impact on the world. There's also European parliament elections coming up. And the UK elections probably also
the
in
year
the fall.
of elections, more than half the world's population goes to the polls, 70 plus elections. That should be very exciting.
It helps when India does go to elections with 1.4 billion, you know.
Keeps us all really excited. Should be a fascinating year.